pushing aside the certain knowledge of why this was happening to look for some good reason, some reason other than the fact that my identity alone could incite in another person a desire to do harm. That my simple existence could be seen as a provocation or offense. I knew the noise, though. I knew what it meant, and that understanding could be delayed for only so long. I knew it from Saturday morning cartoons, watched from behind a bowl of cereal, the last of the milk disappearing to reveal the sugar clumped at the bottom. It was the noise made by the Indians Bugs Bunny killed, counting them off on a chalkboard and singing as he went. 1 little, 2 little, 3 little engines, 4 little, 5 little, 6 little engines. Oops, sorry, that one was a half-breed. Scrubbing a mark in half as he corrected himself. It was made in the movies I watched on TV by the savages that besieged the good settlers on their journey of destiny, the savages who had to be vanquished to set the world right. The kids on the other team knew what it meant too. They'd seen the same cartoons and the same kind of movies. Their parents, who would have known my parents, also understood, as did the coaches, though no adult stepped in to put a stop to it. It meant I was an Indian, the bad guy, the savage, the loser. Now, it certainly wouldn't have been news to me to be identified as Anishinaabe or Ojibwe. I had known myself as both for as long as I could remember, not unlike the way I knew my dad was American. My family didn't drape itself in our ethnic background, but it wasn't hidden. It's just what we were. It's why we occasionally ate fry bread and corn soup, why sometimes we drove for hours to visit our family in Serpent River, why I had a middle name that no one else did. That's what being Ojibwe was to me at the time, a collection of unremarkable and ever-present givens. I had never known anything else. But I'd never thought of myself as an Indian in the way it suddenly seemed everyone else did. Nor had I imagined that my Indianness made me significantly different from any other kid in the neighborhood. It did, though, and those kids wanted me to know it. They wanted me to feel what it was like to be reduced to a caricature in less time than it took me to step to the plate. To feel what it was like to have my interests and passions, my love of baseball and movies, my family's history, and my hopes for the future stripped away and replaced with a sound I'd never made, a sound I'd never heard any First Nations person make, except on a screen. I'd love to say that the whole thing ended with me crushing a ball beyond the left fielder's head, but I can't even remember what happened next. It's only the whooping that has stayed with me. Sadly, it has stayed with Canada, too. In late May 2018, a news story about a Triple-A youth hockey tournament in Quebec City caught my attention. After a bantam team called the First Nations Elites, made up of 13 and 14-year-old boys from several nations in Quebec, Ontario, and Nova Scotia, won the opening game of the Coupe Challenge Quebec Triple-A, the opposing players raised their hands in unison and made the same sound. This was just one of several racist incidents the elites would be subjected to over the course of the competition. They would face unfair treatment from tournament referees, taunts from spectators that included calling them savages, and according to Christina Gull, the mother of a boy on the team, the playing of powwow music by the arena DJ. I was thinking, does this still exist? Gull said to the CBC shortly after the tournament. Are we in the 80s or 90s? At the time of that softball game in Topham Park, residential schools were still open. If I'd lived in a more remote community, I could have been in one. And when the elites took the ice in that youth hockey tournament, the final report of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was already nearly 3 years old. Still, despite taking place more than 30 years apart, the two incidents shared intention, effect, and origin. They were intended to demean, distract, and dehumanize. They hurt, and they lingered. I still vividly remember that sound, and I suspect that the boys of the First Nations elites, and everyone else who's ever heard that sound,